engineers, I just looked at my phone to see what time it was, so I could decide whether to say good morning or afternoon. And it said 11:59. So, hello. My name is Gary Plant. I'm MD of a small company called Altius. We've been around about 6 years. I'm going to just go back a little bit in history first. But before I do that, I just want to ask you a question. I think you've got off light so far. Is anybody willing to share what proportion of their turnover they actually spend with suppliers, contractors, service providers, that sort of thing? In percentage terms, roughly. Any idea?
At least 70%.
Yeah. It's usually quite a lot. Well, I'm going to go back a bit in time first. I saw a picture of a cow this morning on the screen, which I didn't expect, I'll be honest. And the reason I mention it is because I was going to start my presentation with the fact that I grew up in a small village on the border of Derbyshire and Staffordshire. So it's miles away from here. The second thing I didn't expect today is to find out that Simon lives there. So this is all getting a bit spooky. I mention it because I came from a farming background, and when you think about doing things right first time, if you're a farmer, if you don't do it right first time, you're the only person who feels the pain. It can cost you money, it can cost you time, it can hurt you. So it's quite important. But I wasn't really cut out for farming, so I actually found the toys were the best thing on the farm, the tractors and all the machines. So as soon as I was old enough, I scuttled off to the city and started an apprenticeship with British Rail to become an engineer, so I could play with big, heavy, greasy machines. And when I got there, I thought this was the ideal place for an engineer, because as you know, the railways was built by engineers. Some of our best engineers in history have worked for the railways. The other staff, the operations staff, they're all train spotters, so they know everything there is about the railways. So this must be a fantastic organisation to work for. Now, you can probably remember, some people will probably remember, in the 70s and the 80s, what do you think about British Rail? It was hopeless. So all these good engineers, all these enthusiasts, the thing was hopeless. The trains were unreliable. You know, we killed our staff. We killed our customers. And we'd just kill anybody, and that was if the train would move. So this is quite difficult for me as an engineer, so I'm quite disappointed, I'm ambitious, and I'm making a lot of noise about this as an engineer. So somebody decided they'd put me into the procurement department to sort it out. I was complaining about it, so I got a job in procurement. So, right, who are all these suppliers that are useless then? Okay, well here's the list, 57,000. Right, this could take a bit of time. So what we did, we set about looking at why this was. And there was a phrase back then where we said, there's the right way, there's the wrong way, and there's the railway. And it was pretty true. But one of the things we did was to try and analyse, and we said we can't do 57,000 buyers, we need to find some ways of doing things. Now, buyers were a breed of person I'd not come across before. And, I've not met a buyer to this day who will spend £1 on something when he can get something worse for 50p. So, we'd had years of competitive tendering, and what was happening was, we had suppliers who were being beaten over the head to cut costs, and actually what we were buying wasn't really fit for purpose. So there was work to be done. We couldn't tackle it all in one go. So, lots of organisations put a lot of effort into making sure they get things right first time. They do things safely, they don't waste money. People, individuals, do these things themselves. And some people do it conscientiously and do it very well. Some organisations do it quite well. But a lot of organisations, 70% of the final product comes from the supply chain. And unless that is actually working, we're missing quite a bit of it. And the railways are now private. They're delivered by a massive supply chain. It's complex, it's difficult, and it's a lot better. It's not perfect, but it's a lot better. So how much risk are you actually buying in? The supply chain itself is often complicated. It's not a hierarchy usually. It's a mix of relationships and so on. So Well, one of the first things we did, and I'm suggesting this is, this is a great idea I had. It's actually not. You find this in loads of textbooks. But this is a Boston matrix, a supplier position matrix. So if you were to plot every supplier on there and you rate them on risk and look at how much you're spending with them, you should be able to put every supplier you deal with on there. So tactical acquisition, there is no risk. It's not a lot of spend. It might be stationary or something fairly simple. To the right of that, we've got tactical profit. Here, we are spending quite a lot of money, but there's very little risk. So we can use competitive tendering. We can, use our buyers to go out there and get us good deals. But further up on the left-hand side, we've got the strategic security things. These are things that are risky, but we're not spending a lot of money. Now, you can imagine an O-ring on a space shuttle. It doesn't cost a lot in the scheme of the space shuttle, but if it goes wrong, it's usually fairly spectacular. On the right-hand top quadrant, we have the strategic critical, and these are the ones that people think about usually as suppliers. These are the things, there's the most chance of something going wrong there, and it's going to hurt because it's really critical to our business. So this is an area where we really have to make sure we get it right, and this is perfect for collaboration and working together and things like that. Now, in British Rail, we didn't do that. We used competitive tendering, so we were treating them all like Dell and Microsoft and so on. So we need different strategies for different things. We mustn't think there's a one-size-fits-all and magic solution which is going to make all our suppliers good. What we actually found out when we went through this is we did have a lot of good suppliers, but the relationships weren't working and what we were getting was not really what we wanted, and there were some serious problems. You need to actually focus where it matters. The top right is where to put the attention. There are efficient ways of doing other things which I'll hopefully touch on. And we need to aim to reduce risk if we can. So if we can get people out of top right, get them lower, even get them out of top left, get them lower, and reduce the risk by changing things, then we should do it. And when I say risk, any risk, a risk to your business. So health and safety is always there, but there are other things. It may be a monopoly supplier, it might be an innovative technology, a complex technology, a scarce resource. There are all sorts of risks. If those risks could hurt your business, then we should try and design them out if we can. So, Altius was born about 6 years ago, and what we've done over the years, I've been working with some good guys for quite a long time, and we've actually sort of come up with this picture of what we call a compliance framework. So if we want the supply chain to work, there are several things that we should do. And the first thing is in the orange sector. I apologise that this isn't that clear, it's a bit pale on here, but in the orange sector now we're looking at the capability of the supplier. So is the supplier capable of doing what you want? I've got a guy who does brilliant felt roofs, but I wouldn't put him replacing glass at the top of the shard. If you ask somebody to do something they're actually not capable of doing, it's not likely to end well. The second thing then is around the management of that supplier. So this is about, we now establish he's capable. Does he actually know what you want him to do? Does he know what you want him not to do? Which is obviously quite important. And then, what actually happens when he's doing it? Do you monitor him? Do you check? Do you see? Do you need to? Those sorts of things. So that's a sort of a framework. We've got some services and tools that we use to help people to do some of these things. But that's the basic concept of managing the process through the suppliers. So if we take the first one, capability, are they capable of doing what you want them to do? Well, this is the traditional sort of pre-qualification questionnaire, if you like, but that could end up just being a piece of paper that you ask somebody to fill in and put in a drawer. What you actually need to know, you need to get the information that will tell you whether they're capable of doing what you want them to do, and in some cases you will need to verify some things to make sure that they are more than just claims. And again, say this is a traditional pre-qualification thing. Authorization is the next part. You have approved suppliers maybe. You might have people that are licensed to do certain things. So are they authorised? And this comes back to asbestos. Are they actually authorised to do it? So we can fairly readily tell whether they're capable of actually providing what we want with some systems. Make sure they're as efficient as possible. Management, do we tell them the policies? Do we tell them the rules? You know, construction sites, access rules, site inductions. Don't go in that room, it's full of asbestos. You know, what are your policies and your rules? Have you actually communicated them? Have you developed them jointly with the suppliers? The contract and the specification is fairly obvious. Most people have one of those, but is it actually fully understood by the person on the design? And are there any official sort of controls and restraints with which you want to work in? So all of those things should be, and there may be more of these things. As I say, this is a fairly typical example of what we should do. Then we get to the monitoring. So, how do they behave? We've heard that word earlier today as well. How do they actually behave? You know, there are a lot of people quite good these days at ticking boxes, saying the right things. You know, you do it so often, it becomes second nature. But what you actually do when you get on site. Do you need to do audits? Audits are expensive. What happens when something goes wrong? Send the auditors in. Costs a fortune. Wouldn't it be better if some of that money were invested to stop the thing going wrong in the first place? You know, the proliferation of audits and so on since my early days in British Rail is unbelievable. It's good if you're an auditor. And then things like KPIs. There are lots of techniques around. KPIs are fairly easy things to use, but you know, there are some fairly sophisticated ones. Things like weak signals. I don't know if you've come across weak signals. You can get data which is apparently just voluminous and rubbish, but it points out all sorts of things. That's how we detect credit card fraud. You know, they look for small signals of things that are not normal. They kind of stand out. They use it for training in places like Afghanistan. The MOD use it. So, you know, you take all of these observations of the class, and one guy isn't quite behaving how the others are behaving. He might be better behaved than all the rest, but there's a little weak signal there saying something's a bit different. You know, and there's lots of things you can do to monitor suppliers depending upon where they are in that program. So, what I suggest as a kind of a process is that first of all you actually profile the risk, decide what your risks are. It's sometimes not the easiest thing to do. We rush into something. We want somebody to build this new shop for us, and we rush into it. But you know, is there a particular problem on the site? Is some of the design materials scarce, etc. So work out what the consequence of the failure is. Maybe it's more serious than you actually thought. And then also look at the spend. You know, if you're not spending a lot, it doesn't mean that there are no risks. But if you are spending a lot, that's a risk in itself. And then do something pre-contract, look for evidence of compliance, look for track record, experience, capacity, competence. And this may be around, depends what the risks are, it may be around information security. You know, you might wish to do something in terms of checking people are not involved in corruption or bribery. Depends on what the risk is to your business. Look to see what knowledge they've got. They might know more about it than you, and this was a big one in the British Rail days, in that we had suppliers who were really good suppliers, but we were treating them like idiots, really, and we were saying we want this, and they would quite happily supply something better, but they gave us what we wanted. So, look for knowledge, collaborate where it's appropriate, etc. And look for existing approvals. Don't repeat things for the sake of it. We've got suppliers, because we do quite a lot of this stuff, even though I'm saying don't do something. We've got suppliers who get 147 audits a year from different customers and things like that. It's not necessarily easy to keep doing it. And then, when you manage them, what are your expectations? What do you want? What don't you want? Make sure they fully understand it. Tell them what the rules and the policies are. Again, there's some technology things available for this, where you can have an online test for people to do to make sure they've got it. And look at the processes you can have in place to make sure the supplier continues to know what you expect of them. And finally, the monitoring. Pick out the things that are going to matter: reliability, availability. It's what's important to your business. And look at the quality you're getting back and the behaviour of the people whilst they're doing it. Now, that's the end of the slides, by the way, but I just want to wrap it up really by just saying, you know, this can be a bit vague, the things I've said, but you know your business is best. But what isn't vague is there are some tremendous tools around now for actually doing some of this stuff efficiently. So it can sound bureaucratic, it can sound like there's a lot of things you need to do. There's some very efficient ways of doing a lot of this using the internet and using, you know, the goodwill of your suppliers who are often really keen to help. So, that's me done, and obviously the punchline is, if I went through this too fast, or if you need to know any more, that I've got some cards on to take a look at. So thank you very much for listening.